Greetings, Warrior. Master Wizard Walt here, back again for another weekly checkpoint video for the Warrior Gauntlet minus 1% body weight per week challenge. Today I'm going to be going over my results for combat, alchemy, and intellect. But more importantly, I'm going to be pinpointing the key statistics, or should I say the hidden stats that most people fail to focus on when they are embarking on a fat loss journey. Fat loss is not linear, and there's not just one stat to focus on or one thing to focus on for fat loss. So I'm going to be diving deep into that and how to better determine your results other than just focusing on one number or one way to measure your progress. Shall we dive in? Cool. Let's start first with combat. So the key thing for this video is going to be about stats. And if you watched my previous video, I do want to apologize simply because I made this challenge seem like it's something that's supposed to be linear. And it's not about linearly losing minus 1% body weight per week. The big thing is setting the goal or the milestone of losing minus 1% in 1 week. And I made it sound like it's supposed to be cumulative, as far as week 1, 1%, week 2, a total of 2%, week 3, a total of 3%. The goal is to lose 1% of your body weight in a week, but it doesn't have to be concurrently. Every week in a way of this challenge is a reset. Whether you increase your weight for one particular week, we want to set the goal every week to be losing 1% of your body weight. And when I was setting my objectives for week 2 going into week 3, I made it seem as if I was trying to go for the cumulative 4% in 1 month, which is 1% per week. But that's not the point of this challenge. Otherwise, the name of the challenge would be lose 4% in 1 month challenge, right? And of course, that can be different for every single person. So I really want to emphasize that it's not about the linear progression concurrently going from week 1 to week 2 totaling 4% by the end of the month, but it's more about making the adjustments and looking at things as individual weekly battles, setting the goal of trying to exceed 1% in a particular week. So I really want to emphasize that, and I want to apologize because that is kind of what I've been getting as feedback from other people as far as whether they are successfully completing the challenge or not. Again, it's all about 1% per week. So all that being said, let's jump straight into the stats here. So basically what I did was, let me readjust this. What I did was I went back into the objectives for week 3, and again, instead of making it linear and concurrent, I simply just looked at it as a window of 1 week at a time, so losing 1% of what I was currently weighing in the previous week, which in this week was, in week 2, I was 191.96. So I wanted to lose about 1% of 191.96, which gets me to around a 190-pound objective for the end of week 3 here. So as you can see, as we look at some of the stats here, for body weight here, I weigh 191.6. So there was a slight decrease in my body weight, but however, I was not able to lose that 1% in one particular week. Now again, the whole point of this video is not just to go over my stats and pinpoint what went well, what didn't go well. It's also to showcase the other statistics to determine progress other than the challenge itself. Because weight loss is not only about losing like a percentage of your body weight. There's other factors in play as well. There's muscle, right? There's water retention, there's nutrition, adherence. There's so many other stats that come into play for a long-term fat loss success program, I would say. Long-term fat loss success program. Again, a point of this challenge is to not lose weight rapidly and then just gain it back the next month. This is a step off point. This is a branching point to continued success going into next month and the next month and the next month in fat loss. So again, this is to primarily get a kickstart, a jump start to really, again, lose weight in a healthy, sustainable way for the month by really setting particular goals and milestones on a weekly basis and objectives like I'm showing here to, again, make sure you're following a sustainable long-term fat loss approach so that 3 months from now, 4 months from now, you're making more progress than you ever have before. So all that being said, I do have to emphasize that I did not hit the weight loss goal for this past week. So if you're following along in this challenge recap, or should I say weekly checkpoints that we're having here, this is now 2 back-to-back weeks that I did not lose 1% of my body weight. Now, of course, the challenge is 1% of my body weight per week, but there's so much more than just body weight, and let's dive a little bit deeper into that. So body fat percentage is one of those other statistics, right? And as you can see, even though the measurements are kind of, up and down, there is starting to be a trend being that you can visually see that's being created. And as you can see, by taking the weekly average, which is what this chart is, body fat percentage is trending downward, which is good. If body fat percentage was trending upwards and I was still stuck here, right, then that's a bad sign. But this is one really good sign, is that, again, even though the numbers itself, 14, 13, 12, 11, are not consistent, if we continue to consistently track these numbers over a longer period of time, we can start to see the trend in my body fat percentage. So this is a great indicator that even though my body weight stayed relatively the same, I'm still losing body fat. So that's one statistic that is valuable. So that's progress, right? If we only looked at body weight and said, oh, well, I didn't lose 1% this week, failed. I lost the battle. I made no progress. This is why we dive into combat, alchemy, and intellect. But something that I did add as another statistic to track for the rest of this challenge here is lean body mass. So what is lean body mass? Well, it's basically everything except your body fat. It's all the mass in your body other than your body fat. So this includes muscle, this includes bones, it includes basically everything else. So fascinating enough, lean body mass is also going up too. So again, the training component, incorporating the strength training and resistance training and some hypertrophy training inside the gauntlet is actually paying off. This is something that I was not doing prior to the challenge. So incorporating the weight training is also causing me to increase my lean body mass, right? And this could be in the form of less body fat, right? As you can see here in the combat body fat percentage stat, or this could be also an increase in muscle mass. It most likely is a little bit of a combination of both, so a little bit of recomposition since I was not doing much training prior to the challenge. So this is what the life is like for somebody who's trying to go through recomposition. You don't see massive weight loss on your journey. And this is why this process is not as simple as losing 30 pounds in 30 days. It's a more long-term strategic approach because, again, body weight doesn't tell you everything. As you can see, body fat percentage is trending downwards. Lean body mass is trending upwards, which is a good sign. Then we have steps. Another great stat, as you can see, step count actually went from 9,692 to 10,590. So it's increased, which I believe there was one stat that we were trying to achieve, which was 10K steps. We crushed it. So my activity went up physically in the combat department as well, which is another big win. So out of all these stats, combat steps, lean body mass, body fat percentage, and body weight, the only stat that did not improve was the body weight stat. So that's 1 out of 4 stats that did not improve, which means 3 stats actually went up and improved, which means that's progress, right? That's big progress. And I want to emphasize this. It's not only about the weight on the scale. I just showed you 3 other stats that went up. And if you only had tunnel vision and only focused on body weight, then how would you feel, right? You would think, oh, this week sucked. My weight didn't move. But in reality, 75% of my progress was 3 other stats that we weren't really focusing on other than body weight, right? So don't neglect the other stats other than body weight on your journey. Now, that's just combat, right? We could end this now and be like, well, we didn't quite get to our body weight goal, but there's 3 other stats that went up, which is great. So that's massive progress. See ya. No, there's still 2 other areas, alchemy and intellect. So let's see how things went nutritionally. As you can see, my total calories went down from 2330 to 1785. So this was a massive, massive drop here. And that kind of just shows that this massive decrease is very interesting, right? So if I dropped my calories that much and my body weight still wasn't making a massive decrease as well, that just really shows what's happening when it comes to muscle mass and body fat reduction as well, right? So let's dive a little bit deeper and of course check this objective off of decreasing calorie average to 1850. We hit it about 100 calories less. Protein went down slightly from 168 to 159. So we had a goal of hitting 165, so we were not able to complete that objective. Now for carbohydrates, let's see how carbohydrates did. It went down from 174 to 110, so a significant drop in carbohydrates, which means water retention is absolutely less as well. So this is also another big stat is, okay, so I ate less carbs, carbohydrates were down, which means that's less water retention in my body. Therefore, where is the decrease in body weight, right? If I'm eating less carbs and less calories, boom. We'll get to that a little bit deeper in a moment. Then there's fats. Fats also went down significantly from 104 to 74. So big drop in fats. And I believe we had a goal for carbohydrates to get to 140. So that's an objective complete. And then we wanted to decrease fats to 70 grams, which we didn't quite hit that 70 gram, and instead decreased the carbohydrates even more. But there's one more stat, and that's sleep. Sleep did go down slightly to 7.71 from 7.78, so very, very unnoticeable decrease, very consistent. We did have a goal to increase to 8 hours, so that was a stat that we also missed. So What is the key takeaways from tracking these stats? Number one, calories, and number two, carbohydrates are the big thing that stuck out, right? So if my activity went up when it comes to step count, right, my calories went down and my carbohydrates went down and my body fat percentage went down and my lean body mass went up, I basically lost body fat. Some body fat, right? It's not 100% body fat, of course not. So that's something very, very important to keep in mind, is there's something going on when it comes to either recomposition or body fat loss. Now, something to make sure that we prevent here is excessive muscle loss here. So in order to prevent that from happening, I have to make sure that I am getting at least 1 gram per pound of my lean body mass. So which is why we have this 165 gram mark. Now my lean body mass is actually going up, so I actually need more protein. So if we were to just jump into setting objectives for the final week of the challenge here, what we want to do is we don't want to touch calories. If anything, I would say we want to increase our calories slightly. So that's about plus 100 grams or calories. We then want to increase our protein average to our lean body mass, which is what we're now tracking over here, and that's 167.42. So let's go back to alchemy here. We want to get that 167, and that's about a, let's just call it a 7 gram increase here. We actually want to, let's just stick with our current carbohydrate level. Like they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Nothing's broke. We had 3 stats in combat area go up. So let's stabilize and let's see what consistency does for our weight by repeating the same, around the same calories and around the same carbohydrates. So I'm going to say, let's keep it relatively the same at around 110 here. And for fats, we are currently at around 74. So basically we want to make sure we either increasing or maintaining the fat content. So let's just say it's at 74. But here's the thing, we want to make sure these numbers add up to this 1850. And then we need to make adjustments relative to that. So that being said, if we have 167 grams of protein, that's about 668 calories for protein. 110 plus 667, we're at 1100 for both protein and carbs, 1107 to be exact. 1107. We're looking at around 1773 approximately when it comes to our calorie goals here. So basically what we need to do is, I think I'm going to actually allocate some of these extra calories to carbohydrates. So if we were to take 1850 minus 1773, we have about 77 calories to go that are extra. Divide that by 4 for carbs. We got an additional approximately 20 grams of carbs here. I'm going to add that right over here to 130. So I am actually going to be increasing my carbs going into the final week here, and this should actually allow me to possibly increase my step count just because I'm going to have more energy. It's also going to allow me to improve my performance inside the gym. Something that I'm not tracking here And the combat attribute is actually my progress inside the gym. I'm tracking that in a completely separate app, and guess what's happening in the gym? My weights are going up, which is another positive indicator. So I could add that on top of the stats that I already showed you here, but we're just gonna keep everything consistent. So yeah, we're gonna up the carbs and maintain the fats. So we're gonna be basically upping the carbs by about 20. And other than that, we absolutely need to hit that 8 hours. So I'm going to be making adjustments to my sleep schedule. Again, resetting my circadian rhythm, making sure I'm going to bed at the same time, but more importantly, waking up at the same time. That's going to be very, very important. And I would probably say if I were to choose one or the other for me, that's going to be far more important than just waking up at the same time. It actually is going to be having a consistent go-to-bed schedule. So obviously, regardless if you wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning, if you go to bed at 12 or 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to hit your sleep goal, right? But if you go to bed at 8, 9, or 10, then you're going to be way more prone to actually be successful in the sleep area. So that's alchemy. Before we finish off with intellect, let's set some objectives here for the final week for combat. Again, the goal every week is, and I'll make sure to also share my progress pictures for this week that we missed here, by the way, so we could really get a full picture of how my body is changing. We want to lose about 1%, and 1% for this week, it will be 191.6. So that's 191.6 times 1%. That's about 1.9 pounds. So we want to lose about 1.9 pounds going into week 4, the final week. So we're going to take my current body weight of 191.6 minus 1.9 pounds. And we want to shoot for about 189.7. Step count, basically, we just want to maintain an average of 10,000 steps or more. And we are currently at around 10,590. So let's say we want to maintain 10,590 steps or more, which is about plus or the same amount. Perfect. So that's objectives for combat. Now let's finish off with alchemy. Another big week for, or should I say intellect, my apologies. Another big week for intellect. As you can see, I hit 100% of my upper and lower body quests for strength and resistance training. Every single session was completed. That's better than the previous week. So another big reason why lean body mass went up slightly, right? After that, conditioning quest. 3 back-to-back weeks hitting all of the conditioning sessions. There are only 2 per week, but still, consistency in the conditioning department. I was not missing out on my conditioning. Habits went down slightly from 98% to 95%, but still above 80%, which is ideally where we want to be with our habits. So there was only 1 week, and that was before we started the challenge, where I had no habit. I was completing no habits. So this is great consistency, and unfortunately, we didn't quite hit that 100%, but that's okay. Gotta shoot for the stars, land on the moon, right? Then last but not least, meal logging. As you can see, meal logging, pretty consistent, 100% for the whole entire challenge. So all great stats, almost 100% in the intellect department as well. So again, big takeaway for the intellect department is the fact that I remain consistent with my workouts, right? I mean, consistent with my conditioning workouts. I even remain consistent with my meal logging as far as making sure I'm eating the right amounts on a day-to-day basis. And I also maintain that extremely high amount of habits when it comes to mental habits, physical habits, and nutritional habits. Progress, 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 and progress. So before we summarize everything, let's set some objectives for the final week here. Can't get better than 100%. Can't get better than 100%. I'd probably say the best thing for us is to try to increase our habit completion. Or I would say, even better yet, let's just maintain this high habit completion at around 95% here. Right? No point of going, the extra 5% is really not going to be doing much when it comes to the progress that we can make in a single week, at least based on where we are currently at for our habits. Right? Going from 50 to 55% is way more significant for your progress than going from 95 to 100, right? But then maintain everything else. That's basically it. So, big recap. If we only focus on body weight, we would have checked off this week as a failure. We most likely would have been reactive when it comes to what we were doing. We might have psychologically demotivated ourselves and maybe not have showed up this next week, right? Because you're like, oh, I didn't make progress. Like, oh, why am I even doing this, right? You might try to overcompensate by making unnecessary changes to the strategy if we just focused on body weight, right? And you might have just quit the challenge at this point, right? Like if you saw like back-to-back weeks, like, oh man, missed out back-to-back weeks, not hitting 1% challenge, I failed. You might have quit the challenge. So the fact that we just went over today, all of the other stats that actually all went up, majority of them almost all went up other than the protein and fats area of alchemy, as well as not hitting 100% on my habits. Every single other stat that we were tracking went up. Lean body mass, right? Body fat percentage went down. Lean body mass went up, right? Calories had a significant drop, right? There's even stats that I'm not even tracking here that went up as far as inside the gym, right? All of these are indicators of progress, and I wanted to showcase that. And just because I didn't lose 1% of my body weight this week doesn't mean it's a failure, right? We just make progress in different ways, and that is how you can successfully win the fat loss game for the long term when you're having this expanded level of awareness of not just one stat, which is body weight. That's why just stepping on the scale is not enough. Right? It's not enough to determine your progress and results. It's how you're looking in the mirror, how you're feeling inside the gym, and all these other stats that we tracked for alchemy and intellect and combat. So, all that being said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Please share your comments below. And of course, there's still 1 week left of the gauntlet if you'd like to join us. Again, it's just trying to lose 1% of your body weight for the week, and again, setting yourself up for success with a training program and a nutrition program and the guidance for you to begin a successful fat loss journey for not just the upcoming week, but for the rest of this year. All that being said, this is Master Wizard Walt by your side as your guide through the Infinite Warrior Gauntlet Challenge, and I'll see you at our final checkpoint for week 4 of the challenge. See you later, Warrior.